Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mystery Book Club. I'm Sally Hanley, author of the Holly and Ivy Cozy Mystery Series. And today we are discussing Robin Cook's Bellevue with moderator Peg Roach, who is author of the Nora Brady Nurse Detective Mysteries. So Peg, I have been dying to talk about this book since I finished it, and I can't wait for this discussion to begin. So you take it away.
Well, I think I had decided because of picking Alan's book and my own book that I would focus on paranormal. So I was looking for what the third book would be. And I saw the review of Robin Cook. And I thought, I haven't read him in years, but it sounded like it might fit in. So that's how I happened to pick it. And I thought it was pretty good. I know you had some feelings, Sally. So so why don't we start with where that is, what you thought of the book?
Well, I have to tell you, and I will try to be as brief as possible because so that everybody we could take these topics separately and discuss each one. I I didn't uh, I didn't like the book. I Nevertheless, I couldn't put it down when I was reading it because I really wanted to know where this was headed. Uh, but I had a problem with the very um, intricate descriptions of medical procedures, which for me, for the average person, I don't feel that it added anything to the story. It was there sometimes there was several pages to describe an operation or a procedure, and it was like reading a computer manual for me, right? I not being medical. Uh, Listen, when I go to the doctors and they explain things to me, I follow the discussion while I'm there, and as soon as I'm out, I don't understand what they said. So you can understand why. Yeah, you can understand why the medical stuff was not I think he didn't have to be as drawn out in those descriptions as he was. For I felt that it was very repetitious also in the beginning. It seemed like it was one episode after another that were essentially a little different, but pretty much the same, where, he'd have this experience and but the plot wasn't advancing fast enough for me. I think we were like 70 pages in before we got past the same types of experiences that this doctor was having. And then finally, I don't want to say what I think of the ending, but I can't wait to hear what everybody else has to say about that ending. So that's my lead off.
So what did the rest of you think about that? About were the medical parts overwhelming?
Sally, I like the medical parts better than, than the rest, but I don't have a medical background, but I found it very interesting, especially the thyroid storm. I don't know why, but that I had to look that up, and I just I just got all into all of that. And the
Wow.
lobotomies, you know, um, that reminded me of Jack Nicholson. Remember that
Yeah.
cuckoo nest thing? I really liked it, that part.
Darling,
That's just me. How
Yeah,
about Darlene?
I enjoyed the medical part
Oh,
also. I don't know, maybe I like gore. It's hard to say, but I saw a lot when I worked, and that doesn't bother me at all. Um, I did find the book disturbing at the end, though. I'm
yeah.
very rarely disturbed. The tension buildup was great. I could not put the book down at a certain point. It was slow in the beginning,
Mm.
but boy, it really carried you all the way through. And I found it a very interesting book.
And see, I didn't have any problem either with the medical part. I think it just kind of, I mean, I was familiar with most of what he was talking about, so, but I was reading another book, just to digress for a second, that Linda had recommended, on her last or a couple podcasts ago. Anyway, it was very technically oriented and it had FBI and CIA and a lot of areas that I don't know very much about. And the terms, and then I just finished something else. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was her book. The one that she had interviewed, these two guys that were very much into aeronautics, so both Army and Navy, and so they were going through all these different models of planes and, you know, engine sizes, and I thought, oh, this must have been sort of how Sally was feeling about the medical stuff, because I couldn't relate to it, or nor could I keep track of what they were talking about. But somebody with that background probably just, you know, breezed through and knew exactly what they were talking about. So,
Well, I think I just want to make one comment. It just goes to show, and it should be encouraging to all authors out there writing whatever it is you write, that out of four people, now Patty admittedly has no medical background either, but that was fascinating to her. So, you know, your audience, it's finding your audience, but there's an audience for everything that you write, that anybody could write. So
Yeah.
go out there, authors, and write what you write.
so when I was talking with Linda too, we talked about the routine that the interns, the first year residents had to go through. And her question was, is that really what it's like? That in the, I thought that the period that he was writing, he didn't identify it, but I took it to be somewhere 60s, 70s in that area, which that was absolutely true. July 1st was when, you know, just after medical school graduates are coming into the hospital, everything changes on July 1st. So that was familiar. And that oftentimes they were on schedules for 24 hours. And, you know, so that was very realistic. The actual limitations on hours didn't come in, the first rules didn't come out until like, I think like 2003, where they limited them to no more than 16 hours a day. And yet, the medical associations were complaining about that because the end of your 16 hours might find you in the middle of a surgery that you couldn't leave. And same way you were preparing for patients coming in the next day. So you had to finish doing the histories and physicals for the surgery on the following day. So I thought it was very, you know, realistic from that standpoint.
You know, my sister was a nurse, and I can remember she would work a 12-hour shift and then be on call for the whole night. And I thought, how in the world? Or,
What
and you know, she
what kind of
they wouldn't have a place like they had for the doctors to rest. She would have to go home and then, you know, go to sleep, and 2 o'clock in the morning get a call saying, we need you to come in.
so
I don't even understand.
what field did she work in, or what area did
Um,
she work?
she was in recovery.
Okay, because that explains that's a totally different setup. That and OB, because you can't predict when somebody's going to go to surgery and when they're going to need you back to do the
Yeah.
recovery. Same way with deliveries, you couldn't. I mean, it's different, except in when we were really short-staffed, that, you know, would happen. You might do 16 hours, and 12 hours didn't really come in until late 80s, I'd say. No, mid 80s.
Yeah.
So
It sounded barbaric to me.
so Anything else that you found particularly interesting about it, in terms of the haunting, the young girl? What did you think about that character?
First of all, I thought the setup was terrific as far as the ghosts are concerned. You know, first showing her and then some of the other ghosts and this and that. But I thought he did a really good job in spooking people.
Yeah, and especially with the when you learn the history of his ancestors and the erroneous beliefs they had about they were always behind the eight ball when it came to changes, like being clean and antiseptic and uh, but the idea of the lobotomy, I mean, that from the opener, that first opening chapter
Yeah.
was just horrifying because especially since and it was mentioned more than once in the book, the fact was this young girl might have outgrown her behavioral issues had she been allowed to grow up. And it made me think of like how kids are being over medicated these days. If they're just like, antsy and they can't sit down, they're being given all kinds of drugs to so they're not a behavioral problem for somebody.
Well, we did lobotomies until the 50s.
Mm.
I took a job in a nursing home in the 70s, which was in the sort of mid 70s. And that was right around the time when, well, California in particular had they closed, and I was in Massachusetts. The majority of the mental institutions were closed, and they released those people either into family settings or into nursing homes. So we had a number of patients. I had never seen anybody with lobotomy before, but the affect is totally flat. And that was what I learned, was that these were people who had been in mental institutions and they had had lobotomies. Um, so it was, yeah, it was still happening until then.
Wow.
It seems like you could understand when they were arguing that, some of these people were just stark raving mad and screaming and, like out of con they're psychotic, right? They're totally out of touch with reality. You can almost understand it there, but as with anything else, the potential for abuse of, you know, somebody doing it for like this young girl who just, had she was a typical kid and she not and worst of all, she lost her life in the operation because the doctor had made an error. So, yeah, that was pretty, yeah, that opening chapter is just like it, you'll never forget it once you've read it, right?
Yeah.
They had two different ways of doing the lobotomy. That occipital approach going through the eye was one way, but they also apparently drove um, burrowed holes into the frontal area of the skull to access the nerves that they were trying to affect. And electroconvulsive therapy didn't come in until the 30s, late 30s. And so that was still kind of a new thing when they were doing the lobotomies, and a sort of a scary thing from what I read. And they still use that today, but they've gotten much better at controlling the frequency and how much shock they give to somebody. So
So, are patients in like this now treated primarily with pharmaceuticals?
primarily pharmaceuticals, yeah.
Yeah.
Bellaril and Thorazine didn't really come in until like the late 40s. So in the 40s, 50s, when I saw people in the 70s and 80s, or even later. A lot of them were on various forms of Mellaril, and there's been things since then, which I'm not as familiar with. But yes, pharmaceuticals.
You used the expression flat before to describe somebody who had had a lobotomy. Um, and whenever people are on medication, that's kind of how they describe their feelings, which is why they always go like, I'm in control and I don't need the medication anymore. And as soon as they go off, especially
Yeah.
somebody who is like
Schizophrenic.
schizophrenic, yeah, their feelings are flattened, and you can understand that. But then as soon as they go off, they're paranoid again.
Well, and for a lot of those medications too, the side effect was the tardive dyskinesia, where they have this, I forget what the medicine is now that you see on TV all the time.
Commercials, yeah,
They have the kind of, you know,
yeah,
spasming
yeah,
activity.
yeah.
Yeah, which was also a horrible side effect of those meds.
Yeah.
So,
You were talking about the ghost side of it. Well, first of all, one of the things that I really liked about the book was learning the history of Bellevue Hospital. Okay, so I lived in New Jersey, worked in New York, and I worked for architects and engineers, and um, the New York hospital system was forever putting out requests for proposals for projects at the various hospitals. And I said, I have this memory one day of being across the street from this entrance to Bellevue Hospital that I.M. designed with the glass front, but they kept the original facade. And for the life of me, I cannot remember why I was there. I have no idea why I was standing across the street from Bellevue Hospital. I know I didn't go to the hospital for any purpose. It wasn't like there was a meeting or anything that we had to go to. But at any rate, I had no idea, in spite of going after projects at the Bellevue Hospital, the size of it, the fact that there is this building that nobody uses, um, and the fact that it wasn't just for mental patients. I did not know that.
Huh.
well,
So that was fascinating to me.
the
No,
mental hospital, I'm sorry,
it was almost like a factory. It was so big. And they portrayed that in the book almost like a factory. We're going to do this. It was almost like a procedural all laid out, and they had everything in place. And I think that added to the tension in the book because it's like, how do you stop the wheels of a business like that, where it's already in progress and they have everything in place? So I thought that was kind of interesting twist. My father was a police officer in the, I guess, 50s and 60s. He had to take people to Bellevue. He said it was not a pleasant place. It was not good. The people did not want to go there because it did not have a great reputation.
We had a Bellevue from Pittsburgh way, and we actually had a mental hospital, and it was named Bellevue. And I
Oh,
remember when I was first married, of course, I was only, after I had Sherry, I was 16 only. And my in laws had a relative there, and they took me there with Sherry, my daughter, who was just tiny, and said that would cheer him up. And I remember it was real strange and I felt real uncomfortable. But when I was reading this book, I was thinking about my Bellevue, where I went, and how strange I felt in that place. But I never understood why would they think that would cheer this man up? He was just sitting in a wheelchair, it was like flat, flat, Peggy, like
yeah,
you said. He just was there. Wonder if he had one of those. I don't know. But anyway, we had our Bellevue.
interesting.
Well,
I looked it up, it's still there.
the mental hospital part, a small section of that apparently still remains as a homeless shelter for men. The other
Wow.
part was torn down and replaced with a whole new building that's primarily mental health. Then there's the regular hospital, which, as I understand it, is attached to it, but
Oh, so you're saying that the one that he where he meets his demise has been torn down?
yes,
Oh, okay.
Wow.
yes.
Okay.
But they, if you think about them all, I mean, I forget whether it was L-shaped or H-shaped or whatever, they were in different sections. The
Yeah.
med surge, surgical, surgical part was one area, then you had the mental health. And part of that is still there. But what was the year?
It was the 70s,
The
wasn't it?
mental hospital was closed in 84,
Okay.
and then it was torn down. And
Because this takes place in the 70s, right?
he's not really clear. To me, I read it like, I mean, because most of that doesn't apply anymore. If you've been in a hospital lately, they have hospitalists. They have doctors who stay just
Yeah.
in the hospitals. And your family doctor doesn't come into the hospital anymore. So it's the way this to me was like 70s,
Yeah.
give or take, 60s, 80s.
But based on what Darlene said about her father and bringing patients and people into that
Yeah.
hospital, uh, you could understand why these ghosts would be haunting that place, right?
Well, I think even any intercity hospital, if you brought somebody in on an emergency, not even mental health, those weren't the greatest places to be.
Yeah.
I mean, they were generally in older sections of the city and, well, they'd call them what was it, the Gun and Knife Club meetings on Friday and Saturday nights. Emergencies,
Oh,
so.
You know what, Sally, have you ever heard, you're from nearabouts where, well, you're from Malden, I'm from Simpsonville.
right.
But I used to work, I was a district manager for a loan company, assistant, and we used to go all over the state. And we were towards Columbia, people would joke and say, "Oh, you're going to go to Bull Street. We're sending you to Bull Street." I guess there was a mental hospital
Oh,
on this Bull. Have you ever heard anybody saying that?
no,
That you've been here? Oh,
no.
I guess it's probably close by now.
Ah,
But they'd say, "If you don't behave, we're going to take you to Bull Street."
Yeah, I was working when they started emptying out the mental institutions.
Wow.
And that's where you get a lot of your homeless now too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a very difficult situation.
Yep.
But where do you take them? The confinement is normally for 24, 48 hours, whatever. They don't keep them in the regular hospital. Not that long.
Was it because of money?
Lack of help to do it, to manage
Oh,
particular problems. But they have to find a place to put them. They can't just usher them out the door.
wow.
So,
I guess New York is bad for that. Darlene, is New York, do you think, the most?
Well, you have so many people in New York. It's like anything else. Mental illness is X amount of people per 100.
Oh,
And now you have a large population, so you are going to get more than you would in somewhere else.
yeah. Wow. So sad.
yeah,
what,
it seems to be a social issue that we just have not handled well at all and
No.
continue not to, because you're right. I mean, the average family can't take these people in. Uh, they can't cope with somebody who's mentally ill at home.
Especially if you have little kids.
Right.
They're violent. You cannot deal with it.
Right.
And that's when we were called, when they blew. And that's a very difficult situation to be in. They don't even know what they're doing.
Oh,
They're,
Right.
they're just going for it. It's tough.
Right. You see that in the news all the time. There's an issue because, the police then are called into question because they've if sometimes they have to shoot the person or what they can't, they're up against something they don't know how to deal with. They're not equipped to deal with it either.
That's
Uh,
why they came out with the stun gun, so that,
oh,
you know,
right,
you don't want to hurt anyone, believe me.
right,
But you have to stop them from hurting themselves or somebody
Yeah.
else.
right.
When it gets down to that, you have to use something to stop them.
Yeah,
And luckily they came out with that versus the gun, so that I was happy with that, more comfortable with that, I should say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Oh,
What did you think about the housekeeper? Sean, was it Shauna? Shauna? I don't have that.
I liked her. She was very kind and adventurous. Whoa, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have went in there with him. Yeah.
but
No,
the thing is, she seemed more at ease because she'd had experience,
yeah.
and also she wasn't somebody they were out to get.
Oh,
Most,
that's true.
right?
She had
She,
history.
yeah, I forgot about that part of the story. Yeah, she was fascinating in that, like, she's don't look at them, don't look for them because that'll bring them out. They'll if you're looking for them. And I have to say that is the part where the suspense building in this novel was superb. There were lots of things that I really appreciated about this novel, in spite of the fact that overall I didn't like it. But the suspense building, because it's just like when you're watching a show and you're going, don't go in there. Why
Yeah.
don't
Where
go
did he
there by
go?
yourself? Let somebody know where you are. All the things that are running through your head as he's going, and didn't he get in through the men's homeless shelter? Wasn't it some kind of through the mechanical rooms or whatever? That's how he managed to get access without the
Yeah,
keys. Uh,
that's right.
but the housekeeper told him, don't do this, and he just couldn't.
He
He
was
just
driven.
Did you wonder what happened to her in the end? I felt that kind of left hanging.
Oh.
Well,
Well, I felt that ending, it was like, yeah.
and then over.
Oh, but here's my question, Peg, for you, a medical person. Would any medical person take realistically the idea that somebody performed a lobotomy on themselves? Would that even be remotely possible?
Um, I, uh, I think if somebody is mentally, people who have mental health problems do inflict injury on themselves.
Oh.
So yes, I think that is possible to answer that. But I'd say he probably had a little help, you know.
Well, that's of course. And so my feeling was that the when this doctor gives this the reason, like to the family, I figured, oh my God, there's no way. The idea of him doing this to himself was, like made me gasp, literally. But then after I thought about it, I thought, well, is this just like the storyline they've come up with to account to the family uh what happened, like to create a credible story. But for me, if that was a family member of mine, there's no way that I would have believed that that was even possible. But yes, I mean, the readers of the story who have been on this journey with this young doctor know darn well who performed the lobotomy.
Mm.
Yeah,
But
And
the
I
fact
didn't think it. I'm sorry.
that I just felt that the fact that they were trying to that this is what they were telling the family was something that I think it would be tremendously questioned.
Oh, mhm.
right?
Well,
Right.
and he doesn't get into what sort of investigation was done, because you, I think, would expect some kind of an investigation to have been done.
Yeah. But I don't think he deserved it. I mean, I don't think he deserved to die. I didn't want him to.
That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. And he w was not his grandfather and his great grandfather. He was not responsible for any of those the bad things that happened. So yeah, it was just in every way like an unsatisfactory ending.
Yeah.
I think he was, I mean, I think he was a little egotistical like his relatives, from the standpoint that he didn't share anything about what was happening to him. For, granted, he had some concerns, but he also thought he could handle everything.
Well,
So
that's true.
that kind of bothered me, that.
Ah. Well, I was thinking about that when I was walking before I was out walking the dog and this was in my mind and I thought you're right. But at the same time, I understood his fear that he would be viewed as crazy
Yeah,
and lose his
that's it.
position and that uh he wouldn't be taken seriously. I get why he was reluctant to discuss this even with this uh the female doctor that he was paired with.
Yeah,
Uh
Lady.
so but yeah, but you there was a point at which if I did feel like you got to go talk to somebody, which is why it was so like when the housekeeper shows up, it was like somebody threw on yeah,
Yeah,
a safety net or like when they throw you those
A lifeline.
a lifeline, right, exactly. When they throw you a lifeline
Mm.
off a boat, that finally he had somebody who could take seriously what he saw and what he was going through. So yeah, perhaps at that point, yeah, that's when, yeah, he went in there by himself and should not have. And so yeah,
he
maybe you're right about
basically
that.
he basically ignored everything that she had told him
Yes,
as to how to deal with it. But he
yeah,
was only what, 24 or something? He was, I mean,
yeah,
he was
yeah.
very young. So
I didn't like the ending, but I don't think there was any other way to end it. I think that really,
well,
considering the way the whole book moved towards that conclusion, I think it was really the only conclusion that the author could come up with. And you certainly will remember this book.
Absolutely. It was
yeah.
it was quite a read, I have to say.
I was afraid of hospitals before. Now,
Oh no.
yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. Every time I read anything related to going into a hospital, I think, oh God, I hope I don't have to do that.
you mentioned the surgeries in the beginning, when he kept seeing the
Yes.
forceps being
Yeah.
taken away or the sutures untying themselves.
Yes.
Ooh,
Um, that was
God.
that was interesting also.
That really started the action, I thought. The rest of it, like you said, it was a little slow in the beginning. It was more like history,
Yeah.
the background information. But
Yeah.
once he started to roll, he rolled.
Yeah. Yeah.
The story really picked up.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Yeah, it's a fascinating read. I recall reading Coma, though I can't remember very much about it, but I remember reading it and how different that was. And I think they made a movie out of that
Yeah.
also way back when in the 70s. So, yeah, and I actually was surprised. I mean, this was just published in what, 2024, this book?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
I think it is his first paranormal,
Ooh, that's pretty incredible.
so. Well, that's kind of, those are the, we've kind of hit the main points that I had,
Okay.
so.
Look,
okay. So next we can do a little preview of what's coming up, Peg. We're reading The Haunting on Dunbar Lane. Is that the
yeah,
name of it?
Mhm.
And who's our heroine? We have a hero or a heroine in this one?
Well, the main character is Helena.
Okay.
Helen, which I just learned is a very common name that they're giving to girls now, baby girl.
Really?
oh, that was my mom's name, Helen.
Oh, very nice.
Interesting.
My mother's middle name was Mary Ann Helena.
Oh,
So
Helena.
this is not a Nora Brady.
It is Nora Brady.
Oh, it is a Nora Brady.
Nora Brady and Tom King
Okay.
is the second one.
And where in the series does it fit?
I don't, you can read mine independently. They don't necessarily
Ah.
build on one another. Aside from the young adult, Nora is a student nurse. Once we get into the adult, she's a detective with the sheriff's department, but she also does fill in per diem at the local hospital as needed.
Right.
So-
Okay. Well,
So,
everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too,
You
everyone.
too.
you,
And we look forward to seeing you next month for the last in our paranormal series. Let's see how we feel about this one.
Yeah, I'm
I give
halfway
it a
through.
thumbs up.
So
You read it already?
halfway.
Oh, okay. I haven't begun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Okay, everybody.
okay,
Again, have a good Thanksgiving.
You
thanks.
too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Oh, Sally.